The flagship was the well-known supercharged 5.0 SC, supercharged, petrol V8, developing 510 horsepower. Atmospheric version of the 5-liter V8 with a return of 375 horsepower, intended exclusively for the US market. The 3.0 SC supercharged 3-liter petrol unit offered 340 horsepower. It was created on the basis of a 5-liter V8. Supercharging in gasoline engines 5.0 SC and 3.0 SC is carried out using a mechanical compressor of the Roots type. The base engine in the line of engines is a 3-liter turbo diesel. The 3-liter diesel is the next stage in the evolution of the 2.7 V6 jointly developed by Peugeot and Ford. The 3-liter V6 has two turbines, a large one and a small one. The first one comes into operation at low speeds, and the second one connects at high speeds. Since 2015, the TDV6 has been content with a single supercharger. The European variation of the SDV6 retained two turbines, and the output increased to 275 horsepower. The most powerful turbo diesel in the Range Rover palette is Ford's 4.4-liter SDV8. The 8-cylinder unit with dual supercharging develops 339 horsepower and 740 Nm of torque. He disappeared from the list of available in 2021. In 2020, under the hood of European versions, a so-called mild hybrid MHEV appeared with a new inline 6-cylinder engine from the Ingenium family. The boost was provided by an electric compressor and a twin-scroll turbocharger. The compressor was powered from an onboard electrical network with a voltage of 48 V. The D300 version developed 300 horsepower, and the D350, 350 horsepower. Both variations replaced the diesel V8. The line also includes hybrid Range Rovers. Before restyling, the hybrid installation included a 3-liter SDV6 turbo diesel with a return of 305 horsepower. An electric motor providing an additional 35 kilowatts of power has been integrated into the ZF 8-speed automatic. The total performance of the hybrid installation is 340 horsepower. True, the power reserve on electric traction is small, only 1.6 kilometers at speeds up to 48 kilometers/h. In 2019, the P400e PHEV plug-in hybrid was offered. It combined a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine of the Ingenium family with a capacity of 300 horsepower and an electric motor with a return of 85 kilowatts 116 horsepower built into the ZF machine. The total efficiency of the power plant is 404 horsepower. The estimated power reserve on an electric battery is 51 kilometers. In motors with a mechanical supercharger, 3.0 SC and 5.0 SC, with age, antifreeze is found in the collapse of the block due to leaking pipes. Instead, more durable aluminum products are usually installed. The timing chain of a 510 horsepower V8 can stretch after 150 to 200,000 kilometers. In 4.4 SDV8, sometimes you have to change a burst valve cover. It is assembled with the intake manifold. From time to time, the heat exchanger requires attention as it begins to leak. At the same time, losses of antifreeze or engine oil are observed. Traces of leakage can be found in the collapse of the block. Replacing gaskets does not always guarantee complete cure, as it often affects the heat exchanger body. At some point, antifreeze leaks are also detected through the thermostat housing. In a diesel V8, there is a leak along the wires of the oil level sensor. Engine oil gets into the main turbine actuator, which can cause it to fail. In addition, the plastic gears of the turbine actuator wear out with age. The problem of gear wear also affects the actuator of a 3-liter diesel engine. In addition, the TDV6 has seen some throttle issues. Owners of diesel cars have occasionally complained of smoke from the exhaust after starting or during acceleration. In this case, the manufacturer advised replacing the turbine drain pipes with upgraded ones with increased throughput. Fuel injectors will last over 150 to 200,000 kilometers. Unfortunately, a number of diesel V8s required major overhauls. The range and mileage is quite wide, from 50 to 150,000 kilometers. It is noteworthy that the trouble happened after a long movement at high speed. One of the versions of the death of motors 4.4 is extreme heat load and overheating when the efficiency of the engine cooling system drops. For example, due to clogged radiators and intercoolers. However, diligent owners, regularly flushing radiators and intercoolers, also got repaired. Another and more plausible reason is turbines. Over time, they begin to drive oil, in particular the left one. As a result, oil accumulates in the intercoolers. At some point, excess oil provokes the engine to go into overdrive or contributes to burnout of the pistons. Not all craftsmen succeed in repairing turbines with high quality. A more reliable option is to replace it with a new one. It is the left turbine that requires more attention. And yet there are samples that have passed over 200,000 kilometers on their own turbine. A non-original oil filter also managed to provoke trouble. It turned out to be shorter than regular. In diesel 3.0, hereditary risks of turning the liners and breaking the crankshaft after 200 to 250,000 kilometers remain. But real cases are still few. In mighty V8s, 5.0 SC and TDV8, engine mounts can give up after 80 to 120,000 kilometers. And after 100 to 150,000 kilometers in cars with V8, 5.0 SC and TDV8, you have to deal with the loss of antifreeze from the cooling system through leaky pipes, T's and seals. All engines were mated to an 8-speed ZF automatic, with the 3.0 SC mated to the 8HP45 and the rest to the 8HP70. The choice of operating modes of the machine is carried out using a washer hiding in the tunnel. Over time, after about 100 to 150,000 kilometers, the puck often starts to stick, and then completely stops moving. The reason is poor contact or failure of the resistors. In this case, the performance of the node can be easily restored using a soldering iron. In versions of SDV8, errors were observed in the box and the box went into emergency mode. The reason is the failure of the thermostat installed in the channel of the automatic transmission oil cooling pipes. Land Rover upgraded the pipes and removed the thermostat. Failures of the box itself are isolated cases. Permanent all-wheel drive is controlled electronically by Terrain Response 2 Auto. 2-mode transfer case, with reduction gear. An active rear differential lock was offered as an option. Serious problems with the transmission have not yet arisen. Transfer case crunch is usually treated with an oil change and a software update. After 100 to 150,000 kilometers, there were cases of oil leakage through the rear gearbox shank oil seal. The front axle uses a double wishbone design, and the rear axle uses a multi-link design. All arms, including the subframes, are made of aluminum, with the exception of the lower steel arm of the rear wheels. The new air suspension allows you to increase the ground clearance up to 303 millimeters. In normal condition, the ground clearance is 228 millimeters. To make landing easier, the SUV can squat by 50 millimeters. On machines with petrol and diesel V8, 5.0, 5.0 SC and SDV8 4.4, active anti-roll bars with hydraulic locks were installed. Front suspension silent blocks, as a rule, last over 100 to 150,000 kilometers. The originals only come complete with levers. The silent blocks of the lower arms can be repressed. Ball joints last longer. They change in assembly with levers. The rear suspension silent blocks are very durable, repairs are rare. For example, the ball silent block, BSH, of the rear axle failed or began to creak. It is impossible not to mention the insidious cases of destruction of the upper part of the steering knuckle of the front wheels while driving. The incidents affected samples of 14 to 16 years of release. The pneumatic system usually does not cause problems. Air balloons are very tenacious and, as a rule, serve over 150 to 200,000 kilometers. The rear pneumatic elements can be replaced separately, but the front ones can only be assembled with a shock absorber. However, in a specialized service they are able to change a faulty pneumatic element of the front strut. Shock absorbers may become unusable after 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Some owners noticed an unpleasant noise in the front suspension without driving even 50,000 kilometers. Others have experienced knocking, rolling over 100,000 kilometers. The problem primarily affected versions with an active anti-roll bar. Some people were helped by simply replacing the stabilizer bushings, others by replacing the silent blocks of the levers or front shock absorbers, and others by replacing the steering rack or the valve block of the active stabilizer. On fresh cars, after 2015, the number of complainers has noticeably decreased. The bugs have been corrected. In particular, the valve block of the active stabilizer has been improved and the stabilizer mounting studs have been improved. In older specimens, corrosion sometimes ate the tubes of the front contour of the active stabilizer. Often lose their former gloss chrome lettering on the hood and strap on the trunk lid. The optional retractable thresholds require regular maintenance of the mechanism. Otherwise, the bracket with the drive integrated into it may fail. The power distribution box located under the front right fender also needs periodic revision. With age, corrosion develops in the contact connections. This leads to difficulty or inability to start the engine. Sometimes the keyless entry system fails due to moisture getting inside the door handle. Usually the disease can be cured by disassembling and drying the inside of the outer handle. In extreme cases, the handle will have to be replaced. The door locks also had to be updated. There are also questions about the performance of the Eberspacher autonomous heater, in particular, the burner had to be replaced. Many owners complain about slow work and occasional glitches in multimedia. In addition, in a luxury car, the frame of the driver's seat sometimes began to click or creak. The manufacturer has developed a procedure for correcting the defect without costly replacement of the frame. The chair was changed as a last resort. The fourth Range Rover has not yet been noticed in the mass enslavement of owners' wallets and is not currently suffering from widespread diseases. Based on the emerging picture, you can count on 200,000 kilometers of relatively carefree operation. And further statistics are still scarce. However, this does not mean that the contents of Range Rover 4 will be accessible. The cost of consumables, spare parts and replacement work is quite high. As for engines, most of the remarks are addressed to the diesel V8. This is partly due to the greatest distribution of this version. Despite the faults, the vast majority of owners admire the comfort and luxury of the British SUV and remain true to the brand.